morning. My thing ain't right. And this sun is not as bright as it's trying to make it look like. It is not bright at all. It's super overcast. But iPad cameras, iPhone cameras are like real whack. So you can't even, like, what is that? Like, it is not sunny outside, and that would have you thinking that it was very sunny. Anyways, happy Thursday. I've had to repeatedly tell myself that today is not Friday. Today is not Friday. Today is not Friday. I still feel like it's Friday, but I'm just going to keep telling myself I don't really know what it's going to feel like tomorrow, because today definitely feels like Friday. Right. So this morning I was like, man, what can I talk about this morning that would not have me sound like a broken record? Because the moon is in Pisces, which does mean that Mutable Madness 2019 is getting a nice little hit today. So as I've said before, every time the moon is in Sagittarius, Pisces, Gemini, or Virgo, which is every week, the moon is in one of those signs every 6-7 days, we get a hit of Mutable Madness. What is Mutable Madness? Mutable is the 4 mutable signs which I've just mentioned, and the madness is that this year, 2019, Saturn is in Sagittarius. Jupiter will be in Sagittarius at 2 different points of the year. There are 5 eclipses this year, 4 of which are in Gemini and Sagittarius. And then there will be a 4 stelliums this year, where the sun and several other planets are going to gather in one sign. And 2 of those stelliums are immutable signs. So between September and October, we're going to have a stellium, or 4 more planets in Virgo. And then the day after Christmas, there is a solar eclipse in Sagittarius, where the sun, moon, south node, Jupiter, Saturn, and I believe it is Mercury is also all in Sagittarius. So Mutable Madness is speaking to the overt, major focus on mutable signs. And if you have mutable signs rising in your birth chart, like if you're Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Gemini, if your moon or sun is in one of those signs, if any of your planets, hey, if your Saturn is in Sagittarius, yo, it's going down. It's already started. And I really don't even need to tell you, because you could look at your life and be like, wow, really? That's really what we're dealing with? Your Saturn is in Sagittarius if you were born between some specific dates that I've listed elsewhere, between 1988 and I think it's 1987 and 1990. 1990, Saturn dipped into Capricorn and then back into Sagittarius between like June and October, or November, I believe. So today, with the moon in Pisces and this Mercury retrograde in Pisces, we are having a taste of Mutable Madness. And so this morning I figured, like, do I really want to talk about moon in Pisces? Maybe a little bit, but what I really want to talk about is this whole, does Neptune rule Pisces? Does Jupiter rule Pisces and Sagittarius? And what does rule mean? This hits at the heart of a major issue I have when debating people about any topic, including and especially astrology. My major issue is that we engage in conversations and debates about things or topics for which there is no consensus, or we have not established a consensus around what the words even mean. So if I ask you, does Neptune rule Pisces? If I ask you, does Jupiter rule Pisces and Sagittarius? We cannot have that conversation because we have not established a consensus on what rule means. Do you understand what I'm saying? How can we have a conversation and debate how can I teach you a concept or explain a concept when we have not established a consensus about what the word means? This happens all the time on Twitter, and I notice it frequently when I'm having conversations with people about astrology, because words mean things. That is mutable madness. Words mean things. You can't say a word and use it and then go back and say, well, that's not what that word meant. No, because now you've confused yourself and everyone. So, all of that to say, what does rule mean? Do you know what rule in astrology means? Now, for many people, for a planet to rule a sign means that there is an affinity between that planet and that sign. However, where does said affinity come from? Right? Where does that sign get its nature so that it could have an affinity with a planet? If I say that Neptune rules Pisces because there is an affinity, a connection, a similarity between Neptune and Pisces, where did Pisces get its nature? How was the nature of Pisces, the characteristics of Pisces, established so that it could have an affinity with Neptune? Yeah, you know it's coming, boo. You know it's coming. We cannot say that rulership is rooted in affinity if we cannot establish where a thing gets its nature from. Now, planets are real simple. I could tell you where the planets get their nature from. The planets get their nature from the way that they appear in the sky. The observation of that planet cycle. Mars looks red. What do we know that is red? Fire and blood. Come on, keep it real simple, people. It's not deep. Right? Planets get their nature primarily and elementary, right? The elementary nature of how we understand the planets come from how they look. Jupiter is big. It looks big. So what's Jupiter going to do? It's going to consume. Big things consume. They take things in. The sun is hot. We can feel it, right? So it's fire. Mars is red, so it's fire. So we can set aside, we know where the planets get where do the signs get their nature from? No one can answer me that question, because now you've got a circular argument. I'm tired of this stupid fake sun acting like it's bright outside. So you can't tell me where the signs get their nature from without talking about the planets. So now we know that there is no way that planets and that a planet can rule a sign because the sign has an affinity to that planet, because the sign gets its nature from the planet. I'm cracking myself up this morning. Oh my God, this is so great. I love talking about this stuff. I live for it. Can you tell? Okay, so a sign gets its nature from a planet. So you can't say that, oh, well, okay, so Mars rules Taurus. Right, that does not make any sense anyways. But you get my point. You can't say, oh, Neptune rules Pisces because Neptune is like this and Pisces is like this. I know why Neptune is the way it is. Why is Pisces the way that it is? Right? Now, let's rewind, right? That's the theme of this week, right? Stop, rewind, let's go back, revisit, let's recheck, reconnect, like what's really going on here, okay? If rulership is not based on affinity, there must be some other scheme. So there are several different ways that signs are classified, okay? There are several different ways that planets are classified. One of the fundamental concepts that is missing from modern astrology is a concept called sect. Sect connects the dots and makes everything in astrology make sense. Sect is the two what am I trying to say? The two designations that a planet or a sign or house has. Where do these two designations come from? These two designations come from the two bodies that are not planets, the sun and the moon. Did you know that the sun and the moon are not planets? Are you sure? Have you been going around saying that the sun is a planet and the moon is a planet? You know they're not planets, right? They're lights, right? And one of these lights makes it day, and another one of these lights appears when it is not day, and we call that night. So now we know there are two sects. There is the day sect or diurnal, and there is the night sect and nocturnal. If you have purchased and downloaded and read and studied and taken notes with my ebook on the houses, then you already know what sect is and why it is so freaking important to understanding why the houses mean what they mean. So now I'm about to break it down for you for the planets and rulership, right? Just a little bit. So, yes, luminaries, right? This is what we call it. They're lights, okay? So there are two sects, the day sect and the night sect. And guess what, guys? Guess which planet is the king and in charge of the day sect? And it's not a planet. It's a light, and it's called the sun. And the moon is in charge of the night sect. So now we can look at the way the planets appear in their nature and color and proximity or not to the sun, and we can make these planets naturally fall into one of these sects. Now, this is where it gets a little complicated, and I'm not going to go in too deep because we're going to be on here all day because I got a nail appointment soon anyway. So let's just say that Moon, Venus, and Mars are in the night sect. Sun, Jupiter, and Saturn are in the day sect. Okay? Each of the luminaries rules or is in charge of a sect. Each sect has a benefic. The nature of a benefic is one that blurs distinctions. That's Jupiter in the day sect and Venus in the night sect. And each of the sects has a malefic. Malefic planet's nature is to constrict, deny, and sever. That is Saturn in the day sect and Mars in the night sect. Okay? Now, for each sect, you see how mathematically equal this is, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Where's Mercury? Mercury is in between, right? Don't ask me those questions because I can't answer them right now. Get the ebook on the houses. I go into detail on sect a little bit more in that book, okay? So you see how symmetrical this is? 3 bodies in the day sect, 3 bodies in the night sect. That's 6 bodies, right? Right? So the 2 lights only are in charge of one sign each. Sun, Leo, Moon, Cancer. Now you notice how those 2 signs are right next to each other, right? If we fan out in either direction, right? Now the planets rule the signs based on their proximity to the sun. Look at that. Leo, oh, you can't see my hands. Leo and Cancer, right? Virgo and Gemini, both Mercury. What planet is that right there next to the sun? Oh, Mercury! Oh my God, it's magic, right? Then we have Libra and Taurus. There's Venus. Oh, now we're gonna skip over Earth, right? Then we get to Mars, Scorpio and Aries. Then we get to Jupiter, Pisces and Sagittarius. Yes, that is correct. So then we get the 2 Saturn ruled signs, the furthest planet from the sun, right? That is Capricorn and Aquarius. Do you see why each planet is in control of 2 signs? Do you see how logical that is? It makes like total sense, right? This is like totally logical. So when people come to you talking about Pluto and Neptune and all of that bullshit, like, it does not make sense. Now, if you want to bring your little fluffy la woo 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 metaphysical stuff into astrology, like, don't say that that's astrology. That's something else, okay? Because this logic is so tight and came before you could even form an ovary in your mama's womb, right? So don't go try to replace something that you don't understand, right? So now we can talk about Jupiter ruling both Pisces and Sagittarius. Why? Because we know that each planet belongs in a sect. And each planet has a dual nature, right? It is either going to be some temperature, like hot or cold or somewhere in between, and it is going to be some level of wetness or dryness, wet or dry, right? So those two different constitutions and temperaments of the planet are related to the two signs that it rules. Jupiter is moist, it's wet, and it's warm, okay? So if Jupiter is moist and wet, right? And if Jupiter is warm, now we know that Jupiter has to be with something warm, and it has to be, and I just came this way, I didn't mean to come, and it has to be with something wet, right? Now we're going to skip over a whole lot of stuff and just get to the point that every planet rules a sign which rules two signs. Each sign is going to fall in one of two sects. So you guessed it, Pisces belongs in the nighttime sect because it's wet. What is the nighttime? It is wet and it is cold, and sometimes it's dry too, right? And Sagittarius, the fire sign, okay? The fire sign, you're being too literal right now, right? You need to look up temperament. You need to look up constitutions, right? Hot, cold, dry, wet, moist. This is not the climate of the planet, okay? This is something philosophical, so you got to look that up, okay? Because I can't go into everything here. We'll be on here all day, okay? So, right, we're talking about sect. We're talking about each planet ruling two signs, and each of the two signs that it rules, one is going to fall in the day sect and night sect. All of the fire and air signs are day sect. All of the water and earth signs are night sect, okay? Now we're not gonna get into what's a water sign and blah blah. We're not gonna get into that, okay? Let's just stay focused. Jupiter rules both Pisces and Sagittarius, okay? Pisces is the moist, watery side. Sagittarius is the fire side, right? So this duality is very, very important in astrology. It's very, very important in philosophy. It's very important in understanding life in general. This duality and the gray areas and nuances in between, okay? Now, the nature of Jupiter is to consume, okay? Now, each of these planets are going to have a nature, but the nature functions along this duality, right? There are two ways or two parts of consuming something. One is to go out and gather. That's Sagittarius. The other is to take it inside of you, right? That's Pisces. I'm going to say that again, okay? There are two dynamics to consuming, right? The nature of Jupiter, which is this big gas giant, which like is just the hugest planet ever, right? I don't know if I'm going to fit into this spot. Hold on, y'all. Ooh, it's looking real tight. But I think I got it. Ooh. Let me tell you one thing. Growing up in Chicago has taught me how to parallel park. I wish y'all could see how high this curb is and how I just pulled this big old SUV into this spot. I didn't have to pull out. Look at that. Oops, I did just tap that car behind me though. They'll be all right. Yeah, so, right? Two natures to each planet. That's what we're talking about, right? Jupiter is to consume. So now we can start playing around with the elements. We can start playing around with this whole situation, right? Because now, where's another place I could put this? Okay, so we could start playing around with the elements and things like that. Like, what does fire do? Fire consumes because it needs fuel, okay? And water takes everything into it, right? Everything comes from water, everything, and water, when you put something in water, water fills up all of the space around something, and eventually water will disintegrate something, right? Not because of fuel. That's what fire does. So you see what we're talking about here, this nature of each planet, this nature of Jupiter. So when we talk about Sagittarius fire, right? Fire acts on things. Fire does not change. The only thing that can change fire is water. Okay, so let's set water aside. Okay, fire acts on the world around it. You ever seen the sun? No, because it will blind you and it's too hot. That's why you haven't seen the sun. You can't even get close to it. So fire is the will, and the will acts on the world around it. That's Sagittarius Jupiter. So how are you consuming, going out and gathering, using your will to act on the world around you? But water takes things into it. It embodies to take something inside of your body, right? So Pisces, as Jupiter's nighttime sect, water sign, consumes by taking things into it. Let me teach you about Pisces real quick, because I'm the Pisces moon, okay? I was adopted shortly after birth. And let me tell you a little something about adoption. Adoption is Jupiter, because Jupiter takes things into it. But see, adoption is not just one way. This is very, very important. And I've talked about this a lot with my clients who have moon in Pisces, so many of whom, with rare exception, I mean, LeBron James, a very famous sidereal Pisces moon, right in his 10th house, Gemini rising. He was adopted, right? Did you know that? Did you know that LeBron James was adopted by the coach of his basketball team? He was taken in. You see that, being taken in. This is what Jupiter does. But as someone who is adopted, one of the other things that happens, the other dynamics that happens, is that I adopt them, right? Because I'm disconnected from my own biology, disconnected from my own legacy and story. So I have adopted their story and taken their story into me. They have taken me into their family, and I've taken them into me, right? Now, this may sound a little bit deep, but it's just true. One of the other things that I've talked about with my clients who have Pisces moon, who were also adopted, of which there are many, is that part of the challenge. So I know for me, and I'm thinking of a few other clients, there is this sense of what is family? Where does family end or begin? Right? Who is family? What defines family? So we have very strict definitions of family as being biology. But for Pisces moon, that's disrupted. Because remember, if you've got the 2019 Sidereal Astrology Guide, you know I describe Pisces as finding meaning, expanding beyond the personal and beyond the tangible. So Pisces moon literally means family, upbringing, mother, home, beyond the biological, beyond the tangible, right? That there's something else that defines the limits of this thing, and it's not the thing itself, right? So a lot of times with Pisces, for example, when we're talking about Mercury in Pisces, we're talking about how words cannot contain the meaning or intention of the person using them. They are only a correspondence for that thing, and they're not the actual thing. And oftentimes, in order to put something into words, you have cinched it off and killed it, right? You have decided that this is not, this is where this thing ends. It cannot continue to be or change or grow anymore. So, all of that to say that Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius. And now, rulership, we know, does not mean affinity. We didn't really define rulership. Let's think about that. What is rulership? The word rulership is not a very good word. And there are other words used in astrological jargon that are more accurate and that are more precise. Okay. When we're talking about the idea of rulership, we are talking about one of 5 ways a planet can have authority. I'm going to say that again. When we say or talk about the concept of rulership, we are talking about one of 5 different ways a planet can have authority. Now, the word that you'll find in traditional texts, and you'll find other astrologers using, is dignity. But I don't really think that that has a cultural appropriateness or relevance, right? Because we don't really use dignity. When I think of dignity, I think of the greatest love of all, right? She says dignity in there somewhere, that's why. Anyways, so, right, rulership is only one kind of dignity, and the appropriate word is not rulership. The appropriate word is domicile. So we don't say that Jupiter rules Pisces. Now, that's just the way that we've come to say it. But we say Jupiter has domicile in Pisces. The word domicile is home. What are you like when you're at home, in your own place? What is it like there when you are at home? You know where everything is, and you say where everything goes. You say what color the walls are. You say what each room is designated for, right? So there's a kind of authority here when something or someone is in domicile, when they're at home. Again, this is one of 5 different ways a planet can have authority. Now, you can also be in exaltation. That's the second way a planet can have authority, right? Or dignity, as it's called in certain texts. So dignity, or the dignity of exaltation, means that, well, you're not in your own house, but you're in the house of your uncle who really, really, really favors you, right? And the favor of exaltation comes because the nature of the planets that have domicile over the signs are in symmetry. They are similar. So, Moon has domicile in Cancer, exaltation in Taurus. Do you see that we said the Moon and Venus, right, the planet that has domicile in Taurus, are both in the night sect? Do you see how that works? Okay. Now, we said domicile, we said exaltation. Then there's triplicity. And triplicity is about elemental authority. So that's a little bit deeper than I'm going to get into in this video. But the whole point is this. Number 1, words mean things. Mutable madness, duh. Number 2, rulership is not the right word. It's the wrong word. And the right word is domicile, right? And number 3, domicile is one of 5 different ways a planet can have authority based on the sign it occupies. So now we know that signs are places. Signs are houses, or that's not the right word. Signs are like rooms in a house. They are these places, right? And a planet can either have authority there or not. The other kinds of authority or dignity, we have domicile, which is the correct word for rulership. We have exaltation. We have triplicity, which is another word for element. We have term or bound, and then we have deacon or face, okay? So if you want to know more on that, I suggest that you go to skyscript, skyscript.co.uk. And they have a nice little tutorial there that will teach you all about dignity, okay? So now we know that we have been using a wrong word. And now we know that domicile is not based on affinity. It can't be, right? That's all I have for today. I just wanted to drop that little knowledge on y'all. And every time I do these videos, I just be reminded that I really be knowing what I'm talking about. That's kind of cool. It's a certain kind of confidence and like self-acceptance that comes when like you know what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, I learned that, I earned that, I did my good studying, I've mastered that concept. Anyways, again, it's not Friday, and I'm very sorry that it's not Friday. It is Thursday. I don't know what tomorrow is going to be, but when we get there, I will find out. The moon is currently in Pisces, currently right now triggering that Mercury retrograde. And you just got your own mutable madness lesson. Yeah, that was kind of fun. I'm not at home and I'm not connected to my Wi-Fi. So again, because of all this Mercury retrograde madness, I'm hoping that this video ends up on YouTube somehow. We'll see what happens when I end this video. If Instagram will play nice with me today. You guys have a good Thursday. Love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. If you have not seen your sidereal birth chart, and I put this in the comments of the video every day when I post it on YouTube, go to thepeoplesoracle.com and click sidereal birth chart. Use the instructions, every single one of them, to cast your birth chart. Okay? And for those of you who pre-ordered the 2019 sidereal astrology guide, you should get yours. It should be there. And if you did not get a shipping notification, if you did not receive it yet, hit me up, let me know. And if you do not have your 2019 sidereal astrology guide, you are tripping. Like, yo, you are tripping. I wrote it and I made it. And like now I'm going back and using it and I'm like, yo, this is really good. Like, this is super dope. In the back, it has all of the transits at a glance for every month in 2019. It has fill in the blanks for every planet changing sign, retrograde, new moon, full moon, so that you can find out exactly what it means for your life and your chart. And it has journaling questions, which are like, yo, super deep. I ain't even got to March yet. March just started yet, so we're gonna see. You all have a happy day. Go to thepeoplesoracle.com, click shop if you want to get yours. You can also download the 2019 eclipse guide. And if you book a Saturn return reading with me, you will get a free download of the 2019 eclipse guide. So that's all of my announcements for today. You guys have a great Thursday. Goodbye.